A formal welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. This is the first event in the Day in the Life series hosted by the Florida Public Relations Association student chapter at Jacksonville University. And FPRA Jacksonville was kind enough to co-host with us. I'm Dr. Courtney Barclay. And I get to play sort of double duty today because not only am I the faculty advisor for the FPRA student chapter at JU, I'm also the president-elect for the FPRA Jacksonville chapter. So for those of you who are new to our organization today, welcome, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about membership. We welcome Lee Meltzer, who is a former student of mine when I taught at Syracuse University. And I hope Lee will excuse this. I'm going to keep the introduction somewhat short, just so that he has plenty of time to give his expertise and we have plenty of time to ask questions and converse with him. But just a little bit, and I have to start with this. Lee was in one of the communications law classes that was my first semester teaching at Syracuse. It was my very first academic job, freshly minted PhD. Coming to a university like Syracuse, and out of the thousands of students that I have taught in the 13 years since, which that math was a little scary for me when I was putting together this intro, he still stands out as one of the top 10 students that I have encountered. And from that very first class, and I was saying this just a few moments ago to some of the people on the call, just having a conversation with Lee, you knew that he was going to do amazing things and that he was going to be extremely successful. So I'm very pleased that now, as the Director of Entertainment and Sports at Rogers Cowan PMK, he is willing to give a little bit of that knowledge and his experience to all of us. So thank you so much, Lee, and I will turn it over for you for your expertise.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. First off, it is amazing to be with everyone here. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I love speaking to universities. I love chatting with everyone to hear what you're looking to do, where you want to go. I remember when I was in Syracuse, when I was graduating in 2009, we were coming into a recession and it was not an easy time to get jobs. And even with 4 internship experiences under my belt, it was very tough. But I knew that I had people who supported me, and I always vowed that I want to be here to help people and to guide and to give guidance, and also to have these conversations as to what we do and know what you're getting yourself in for, and making sure that when you're coming into this industry, there's a lot of glitz, there's a lot of glamour, there's a lot of hard work involved, but it's fun. But you also have to be prepared and be ready for days that are going to be long, that this is not a typical 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 job. But if you find the area that you're really interested in and you can find the passion, then you will love this job and you will succeed beyond your wildest dreams. So I'm really excited to talk to everyone today. So I know this is a day in the life of, so Thomas, would you like me to, or Courtney, would you like me to pull up the presentation, or how would you like me to do that?
Yes, I think if you want to start your presentation, and then Thomas is going to field questions from the comments, as well as some that we have gotten in advance once you've given your presentation, and we'll stop the recording for that part.
Okay, perfect. So let me go ahead and share this. Okay, let me go ahead and, okay, so a day in the life of. So as I was just saying, in the world of publicity, there is no such thing as a normal day. Every day is something different. So again, if you're looking to go into a job where it's the same routine over and over, this isn't the one for you. Pre-pandemic, we were always focusing on setting up for press days, going out with talent on press days, attending or planning red carpet events, as well as handling the administrative work that goes to putting those days together. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work before you get to the big events. Now, with the pandemic, we also saw a lot of changes in the way that we would handle this. So because there were no longer red carpets and there were also no longer in-persons, new technologies such as Zoom and Zencastr, as well as phone interviews, became our new norm. So that's what we would do pre and post. But now we're going to go a little bit into what that preparation day would look like. So when we're preparing, and this is where I spend most of my days doing, it's coming up with what those press days and campaign launches are going to be. So when you're working in entertainment PR, there's different facets. You could be doing personal PR where you're looking to expand the brand and profile of talent or brands as a whole. And where I am most of my work in film and TV, it's working on campaigns to raise awareness and to garner people's attention to know that this is the film and the project coming out. So when you're doing that, you need to really be strategically thinking, but you also have to come up with different materials and press pitches. So we're going to get into what that strategic thinking and that material creation and press pitching looks like in a minute. But again, I want to also emphasize that every strategy is different and you really need to cater your work to your client. So I use as an example, if you're doing a press campaign for a horror film, it's going to be very different from a campaign for a documentary that you're doing on, let's say, nature. So you have to know your audience and you have to be aware of who you're pitching to so that you're going to get their attention, but also have their coverage. Another thing that's really important in this industry is having the knowledge of Muckrack, Cision, IMDb Pro, Celebrity Service, and Critical Mention. Not sure if anyone here has used these software, but I will say that you should find a way to familiarize yourself with them, because when you first start out, and even to this day, they are used constantly. So very important to know those tools because they're going to help you with building your lists, with figuring out who are the different reps for the talent that you're going to be working with, to get all your metrics so you could show how many UMDs as well as audience members are tuning into your different posts that you're getting and your different placements. So that is just something that I feel is so important to anyone to know. Strategic thinking. So one of the keys to success in PR is thinking strategically. And again, going back to this idea of if you're going to do this film on a horror, if you're working on a horror film and you're putting this campaign together, you want to make sure that you're thinking about who writes for horror. You want to make sure that you're going after the writers like Bloody Disgusting and Dread Central, as well as also mainstream if it makes sense. But let's look at it from a sports perspective, if you will. If you're working with a basketball player, obviously you want to do a lot of the basketball press that is ESPN, Bleacher Report, NBC Sports, CBS Sports, all the sports. But there's also ways to go and say, okay, well, this particular athlete is a big fan of, let's say cigars. So can we do a cigar aficionado piece? Or let's say that they're avid golfers. Okay, let's try to get them in a Golf Digest piece or in Golf Magazine. So really learn the client that you're working with and try to think about things that can elevate them so that it's not just in that little box that you stay in. And that leads me to saying how traditional PR is not enough in this modern day. It is important that we think outside the box to come up with innovative ways to generate buzz and awareness. So nowadays, we have technology that didn't exist when I first came out of college with IG Live, Facebook Live, Clubhouse. So many people are going on and using these to promote their projects and having conversations because social media is where there is a huge audience. I know I listen to some and I see the numbers constantly pop up for how many people are tuning in, and it's mind-blowing. But you always have to remember that if you're not reading the newspaper, if you're not watching that morning show or that evening show, or you're not reading that piece on .com or in a magazine, how are you learning about what this potential thing that we're promoting is all about? Are you seeing trailers? Are you seeing bus shelter posters? Are you seeing advertising? These are all different tactics in the marketing which PR falls into as to how people can become very aware of a certain client and or of a film or other entertainment project. So always think about that. Think about what you could do on campus. You know, if you're doing a promotional screening rep for one of the studios at JU, can you set up a screening on campus? You know, are there local restaurants and bars where you can do theme nights? You know, I remember when I was at Syracuse, what I did was I was a rep for Warner Brothers, and I partnered with one of the bars on campus, and we would host different promotional nights where I would give out screening passes for the local cinema in Syracuse, but also give out promotional items like sweatshirts, hats, gear, take photos of everyone wearing them, and then we would send them back to the reps so that they had different material that they can use to show what was going on campus as different marketing plays. So always think outside the box. And also think about the audience you're trying to reach and what that best way to do so would be. You know, if you're doing something with an influencer, you know, go to their audience. I'm not a TikToker, but I know a lot of people are. And I know these videos go viral, and there are people who make millions just from dancing to various songs. But that being said, that's a great thing for a brand or another project to consider. And then come up with that strategy and start to implement, you know. And then when you're doing that, implementing, you have to create your materials. So you have to think like, what are we giving to the press and to other members of the community to make sure that everything is being spoken about correctly? You know, we want to make sure that for a film perspective, they have the right distributor, they have the right running time, they have the right cast, they have the right, you know, synopsis. So we create fact sheets for that. We also create press kits, which also include director statements, film bios, and all those other things I just mentioned, so that when they're writing their pieces, they can go to that. But you're also going to be writing bios for your clients. So if you rep a talent, you're working on their bio and making sure that that's completely up to date, editing it and sending it out as needed. Fact sheets are basically the one-pagers that we create for films, where it gives all the information that I just mentioned from top to bottom. Your pitch letters are what you're sending out to press, in addition to doing a press release. And, you know, again, something that I've learned over the years, and I give this to you as a great piece of advice, is that you want to really be authentic and you want to connect. So you can do what we call a blast, which is when you send out a mass mailing to press for a press release. But you are more likely to get that coverage if you can do it more personalized and be authentic with the press that you're working with. So you can blast, but I also highly recommend individually pitching versus just doing the blast on its own. And when you're sending these emails, be sure to tailor them accordingly, as they're very important to those you're sending it to. So make sure you have the correct name, the correct outlets, that you're talking about their previous work if you want to include it, so that they know that you're paying attention. But really be authentic in what you're sending, because inauthenticity or disingenuousness can be spotted. And, you know, you don't want to have that reputation. So let's talk a little bit about what a press day would look like during the pandemic, or pre-pandemic, I should say. So a day in the life for me when I wasn't in the office would be, you know, I'd wake up in the morning and I would go meet a client at an early morning show, which would typically be Good Morning America, The Today Show, CBS This Morning, Good Day New York, or we would start with radio, so like Sirius XM or local stations in New York like Q104.3, and then our day would continue. So we would then go to different locations, whether it was to other in studios for interviews, or we would go to an office location and we would set that up for radio interviews, one-on-ones, junkets, however we wanted to do that. But it is so important, and I know at times I've been guilty of this, to give everyone a lunch break, because you need to make sure that everyone is fed and everyone is happy. You know, when you're on the festival circuit, when you're like at Sundance or you're at South by, a lot of times you're going back to back to back. And, you know, Sundance is known for Main Street, where you go up and down this giant hill, and you're doing this for hours going to the different studios. And there are times where you just want to get your film slotted in because there's so many other films that are taking place during, that week that you have to, in a sense, make sure you lock it in. But you need to make sure that you give your talent a lunch break, because people who are hungry, as Snickers would say, you're not you when you're hungry. So make sure you always make sure that everyone is fed and happy. Continuing on with the shows, later in the night, we would typically end up going to an evening show, which would be, going to a late show with Stephen Colbert, Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, Late Night with Seth Meyers, or we would go to a premiere and or an event. So that would be where we'd go to the red carpet, we would take talent walking down, they would take their photos, they'd go into the movie, and then they'd go to the after party. Or an event could be if they were going and speaking at like the 92nd Street Y or the Paley Center or the JCC Manhattan or wherever it was that they were doing their event. And we would go with them there, and then that would be the end of the day. And typically, if this is a film, what we would do is this day, but then the next day we would do it again. So whatever that event was or that premiere was that night, the next morning we would continue with how we just did this from a press day perspective the day before. So getting in everything we can. Now, that was pre-pandemic. Now, in March of 2020, when the world changed, we had to change. So what did that mean? Obviously, we weren't traveling and we weren't going in studios anymore. Everything was now Zoom, Zencastr, phone, or email interviews with talent working from home. Again, I say this tip in this present day, when you're doing press days too, always make sure to schedule some sort of a break and leave time in between interviews so that talent can then get up and use the bathroom, have a water break, because we're usually going for multiple hours on end. And it could be very long and it can be very exhausting. So you want to make sure that your talent are happy. But what I will say that's been, interesting too from a press day perspective is that by having everyone working from home, a lot has changed. So for example, in New York, for anyone who's been to New York, we deal with constant traffic. So you always have to allow time when you're getting to and from bookings. So if you're doing something that's all the way downtown by the World Trade Center, and then you have to be up in Midtown, you have to allow for at least 30 minutes of driving time because of traffic and getting around from place to place. But now there is no traffic because the furthest you're going is from your bedroom to your table or your office, wherever it is that you're working from. So that also reduced budget expenses, which means car service, some glam budgets because you're going around everywhere doing all these things. And a lot of people are doing their hair and makeup from home. That's not to say that we're not still providing it, but I'm saying for certain projects, it's like, well, because it's from home, it's not as needed all day. So you do it, you have your touch-ups and whatnot, but you're not having somebody with you all day. Same with the styling and other things that are coming into play, but also fatigue, because these are long days. As exciting as they are, they're long. They could start as early as 6 a.m. and go until as late as midnight. So, you just have to always remember, like, this is a long job. And again, this is not a 9 to 5. So what I also want to do in this conversation is, even though I'm telling you a day in my life, I want to help you get ready for a day in yours. So what's so important about this is that you need to be prepared for this industry. It is a very competitive field. And one of the best ways to succeed is to have experience. So first off, I highly recommend that you secure an internship in the area of most interest and at a company that you see yourself wanting to work for post-college. So if you want to be an entertainment publicist, I recommend looking at agencies or companies that are in that area that you're most interested in to see if you can get an internship, do informationals and conversations, and learn from people who are there. Same with if you want to get into healthcare, or if you want to get into brands PR, or you want to get into lifestyle PR. Figure that part out. And remember, you can always change in life. You're not set in stone to work for one place for your entire life unless that's what you choose to do. But to start, you should look to see where you want to go and really focus on that. And then going back to what I just said, update your LinkedIn and connect with professionals or companies you want to work with on there. LinkedIn has been great, and I've connected with so many people on there. And please note to anyone who is watching or listening to this, my LinkedIn is here. If you want to reach out, feel free to send me a note. I love talking to people. I love giving advice. So look for companies and places where you're interested in and just reach out, say something along the lines of, hi, I'm very interested in your company, would love to get 15 to 30 minutes of your time for an informational if you wouldn't mind. And most people nowadays are more inclined, I believe, to do so. So that's something I think is really important. And then also set up Zoom and phone informationals. So again, using your LinkedIn, just be authentic, asking for people's time, but also that you really want to learn. And never be afraid of this. As Wayne Gretzky once said, you miss out on 100% of the shots you don't take. And that is a great quote. And I felt the need to put that on here because you need to take the shot and not fear it. So you should also keep up with the entertainment or the ever industry that you're interested in their trades and know what's going on in that sector. So again, if you're interested in entertainment, look at sites like Deadline, The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, IndieWire. See what's going on in the news cycle, right? Also look at what's going on with CNN and everywhere else, because that's all going to play a factor in what's happening in entertainment as a whole. As I said too, don't be afraid of rejection. Whether it's a job post, sending a pitch, going after a new business opportunity, the truth is you're gonna face rejection. In some way, shape, or form in life, you're going to get it. And don't take it personal, because this happens to everyone. I face rejection on a daily basis, and that's whether I'm trying to sign a new business opportunity or I am sending out a pitch that unfortunately someone doesn't have the bandwidth to cover. It's okay, because maybe they don't bite this time around, but the next time they will. So rejection is only temporary. Never take it personally. And just continue to build relationships with your classmates and your internship colleagues, as you never know when your paths will cross again. The photo that's on your screen right now is a photo taken on my last day at my internship with the Maury Show in 2006. And I post this because one of the people who I met during that internship is a very close friend of mine who ended up working in film and mentioned to me that I should do a film internship at a company where she was. And that was a job that I did for 2 years as a screening rep for Syracuse University, as well as in New York, but would have never known about it if it wasn't for my friend who I met at this internship. And to this day, we're still very close. And this was 15 years ago. So keep in touch, pop a note, talk to your friends. Anybody who's on here as a student right now, keep in touch with your classmates, stay connected, because you never know who's going to end up where. Keep that as a note too. A funny story was I once was talking to a student who was at Syracuse. She was a few years younger than me, so I had been working professionally. And fast forward a few years later, she was now my client. So she was telling me, what she needed and working together, but it all started from a conversation. So again, you never know where life is going to take you, so keep those relationships. Key takeaways from this whole presentation that I hope everyone takes. Again, PR is not a normal 9 to 5, 10 to 6 type job. Every day is something different. As a communications professional, and I love how I'm saying this for this particular line, be comfortable and confident with public speaking and writing, because you will be speaking and writing every day on the job. That's not to say you won't fluster some words like I just did. But that being said, you have to be confident and you have to be comfortable. And whether you're talking to 5 people, 1 person, 30 people, 300 people, whatever it is, just know that you know what you're doing and you're confident, because that will resonate and that will shine. And right now, I only see 3 people on the screen, but even so, I know that there's a lot more watching. And knowing that, again, I'm not talking to just one person, I'm talking to you all. So make sure when you are talking in a group setting that it is not aimed at just one person, that you are talking to everyone in that room and that you are doing so confidently. And also, be alert to what's going on in the world and know what the news cycle has, because that can change your job in an instant. Today, we learned that Prince Philip died. So that's going to play a factor in how the news cycle is changing today too, from coverage perspective. So one thing can lead to another in terms of the news. And when you think you have a story going, that could all change based on something breaking in the news. So, you may have a booking on a morning show, but then they have to bump you because something just breaking took place. And again, never take that personally. Just know that this happens. In conclusion, again, just work hard every day, find an area that you are passionate about and really let your passion shine. Take the time to research and provide insights to your team that will help propel your client to new levels. And what I mean by that is, don't just sit on the side waiting for someone to tell you what to do in terms of the PR job. Do your research. Assist. When you start off, you typically start off as an assistant or a coordinator. So assist, do research, come up with ideas, brainstorm, think about things you can bring to the table. Because I love when our interns and our assistants come together with ideas and I say, let's run with it. You know, and really find a way to be confident in what you're saying about that and really own it. Because if you have a great idea, it could be the best idea that everyone's heard of. So don't be afraid to share it. Be a forward thinker. Keep up with new trends. You know, keep up with TikTok. Keep up with Clubhouse. See what everybody's doing. Talk to your friends and find out what's hip, what's not, what's cool. What is there that everyone needs to know right now? Because as a forward thinker, you will be ahead of the curve. Also, have fun. Okay, this is a tiring and at times a thankless job. You know, the truth is we are the unsung heroes for our clients, but know that this is one heck of a ride. So have fun, enjoy what you're doing, learn as much as you can, work as hard as you can, and you will shine and grow in this business. As someone who's been doing this for 12 years professionally and 14 or 15 years with internships, it's a long road. And you have to learn and you have to really work your way up and also be respectful and ultimately will earn respect. But know that you're not alone in this. And if you have questions with people, ask them. You know, don't rush into something for the sake of just getting it done. Think about what the overall end result is going to look like and just be prepared for giving the information that you need to when talking to journalists or talking to clients or talking to your team so that you are, you know, showing that you've thought it through and know what you're doing. But again, really have fun with the job. And with that said, that's the end of my presentation. And thank you so much for listening.